Okay, so this is lesson 7, linear equations with more than one solution. We started our work on workbook page 93, beginning with this partner activity. I'm just gonna scroll down to the bottom of 93 and get started on the work with solving equations. All right, I was hoping I can turn the iPad and zoom. There we go. Zoom in a little bit better so we can just see the bottom here. All right, so down on the bottom of page 93, we looked at this table, and the table is asking us to consider the equations in the table and indicate which values of W make each equation true. All right, there we go. All right, so for this table, what we are doing is we're substituting each number into the equation for W. So starting with equation A, and you can use page 93 or a scrap piece of paper to do this work, or excuse me, page 92, there's some blank space, or a scrap piece of paper. So into equation A, instead of writing W, I'm going to write 0. Again, instead of writing W, I'm going to write 0. And notice how I didn't write 80 and 50, right? I wasn't doing this 80 and 50 because keeping in mind that 8W or 5W, when that variable is right next to a number called a coefficient, that means multiplication. So then I'm just going to solve each side, the left side, or I should say evaluate each side, the left side and the right side. So 8 times 0 is 0. That leaves me with 0 plus 5 on the left. 5 times 0 is 0. That leaves me with 0 plus 8 on the right. And now I'm evaluating further. 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 8 is 8. Well, 5 does, of course, not equal 8, so 0 will not make this equation true. So then we're trying each number, looking for any values that make this equation true. So again, into the same equation, instead of writing W, instead of writing what I just did, which was 0, I am now going to write 1 and evaluate each side of the equation using 1. 8 times 1 is 8. So on the left, I'm left with 8 plus 5. 5 plus 1 is 5. So I'm left with 5 plus 8 on the right. 8 plus 5 is 13. 5 plus 8 is 13. 13 does in fact equal 13. So the number 1 does make this equation true. And you would continue testing each number into each equation. So why don't you go ahead, maybe pause the video and try out each number. Knowing how to perform these orders of operations and really get going on this type of work is important. So please definitely pause. Definitely try the substituting for these equations on your own before we come back together. So hopefully you've paused. You found that 2 and 3 also did not work for equation A. I'm forgetting now which one is going to work for equation 2, so I'm going to test out the number 2. I know it's only one of them. So 1/2 times 6 times 2 minus 4, I think it's 3, equals 7. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 4 is 8, and half of 8 does not equal 7. So it's not that. Maybe I guess it's 3. Let me try with 3. So now I know that equation 2 is not, or excuse me, equation B is not true for 2. So let's see, times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 minus 4 is 14. Half of 14 is 7. Okay, so that was true. These were false. What happened with equation C? Oops, you probably noticed that for equation C, all of these were true, and that's one we're going to talk about specifically in a minute. And then for equation D, there was also only one number that made this true. I believe it was 2. 11 times 2, does that equal 7 times 2 plus 8? 11 times 2 is 22. And yes, this is 14 plus 8, which does also equal 22. Yep. All right. So now that we have our table complete, we can really take a look and see what happened. What are our differences here? Well, one thing you'll probably notice right away, especially if I get rid of some of these x's, is that each equation was either true for only one or true for all, right? So those are our two options. It's either has one solution, or equation C, actually we're going to say that equation C has an infinite number of solutions. So we'll take a look at why that is, right? It doesn't matter what number we're going to put in for W, it's always going to end up being true. And if I look at equation C a little bit more in detail, maybe I do the first step of the distributive property. So let's take a look at this equation C using the distributive property. So remember, I'm just distributing that 3 into both numbers. So I get 12W plus 3 times 3 is 9. And then what do I have here on the left, or excuse me, the right? 12W plus 9. So what are you noticing here? Right, we're noticing that the left side and the right side are identical. So it doesn't matter what number we put in for W, 12 times any number plus 9 is always going to equal 12 times that same number plus 9. So we would say that equation C, again, has an infinite number of solutions. On the next page, and you can see this too in letter B, if you do go through and keep solving, what's going to happen, you're going to get 12W plus 3. And you can try this out, excuse me, plus 9. You can try this out. You can go ahead and try solving, pause here. Right, remember I want to get all my variables to one side. Oh, what happens? My variables cancel out. What am I left with? I'm left with 9 equals 9. Of course 9 equals 9. So again, when I have what's on the same thing on the left, same thing on the right, it's going to be an infinite number of solutions. So even just looking here at number 3, what do we have on the left? We have a 5x. Do we have that same 5x on the right? Yes. On the left, we have this -9 or -9. We also have the same thing on the left. So I know just by looking at this, and I don't even have to do any further work, I know just by looking at this that this equation is going to have an infinite, which that was really ugly. I don't know why I'm having, it's going to have an infinite number of solutions. And of course I'm saying right? You can write the word, you can use the symbol, but that just means infinite solutions. So for each one of these, you are going to have to go through the steps and see. I would distribute here. So 3 times 3v is 9v, 3 times 1. So looking at this equation, does the left side match the right side? No. So we're going to have to go through and keep solving. So that's where we're doing our steps that we were practicing last week. All right, so you're just trying these others, trying to decide if, trying to find the number of solutions to the equation. If there's only one solution, then we're going to solve and check. Okay, so I didn't check on number 4, but don't forget to do that.